The first episode of the third season begins exactly as we expected, with fire and blood. But for the moment, it is only sheep's blood, as Sheepstealer, the wild dragon, continues to ravage the countryside. He appears suddenly with his massive size and then incinerates an innocent sheep that was grazing very close by. However, the enormous dragon is not alone. Nearby is Rhaenyra, who has followed him for several days, and exhaustion is already taking its toll on her. But her desire to tame him is much greater, and she does not plan to give up. On her face, we can see the toll she has endured to reach him. Now that she has him right in front of her, she knows perfectly well that this could be her last chance. Either she succeeds, or she will surely become dessert. Once she is close enough, she tells him over and over to stay calm, and then places her hand upon him. At that moment, Sheepstealer seems to yield and settles down so that she can climb onto his back. But not everything turns out to be so easy. Rhaenyra manages to mount him, but the huge dragon ignores all her commands, and in fact lunges forward until he reaches the cliff and then drops into the void, giving her a new flying experience, very close to death. As the dragon fades into the mist, we travel to the capital, where Aemond wakes Grand Maester Orwyle in a state of absolute fury. He drags him out of his bed and forces his head down onto a wooden block, ready to decapitate him if he doesn't answer his questions. Orwyle has no idea what he is being accused of and begs to know the reason for this. At that moment, Aemond questions him about his brother, demanding to know how he managed to escape. Since Orwyle truly has no clue what is happening, Aemond is in no mood for excuses. He raises his sword, and just as he is about to strike, someone interrupts him. This man turns out to be Larys Strong, the former member of his brother's council, who informs him that Aegon has also escaped. This makes Aemond realize that Orwyle had nothing to do with it, so he stands down and leaves. Right then, the scene shifts to show a wagon traveling down the long road away from the capital, where we can see Aegon and Larys on board, posing as cripples and unimportant commoners. The pain Aegon has to endure is overwhelming, and Larys begs him to be brave. These are dark hours, but everything happens for a reason. But to Aegon, this doesn't seem true. Deeply mired in negativity, he repeats over and over that he is the king of nothing and that his best companion is a cripple, so he won't be of much help, at least for now. Seconds later, the wagon screeches to a halt. When the door opens, it reveals House Staunton soldiers, who now serve Rhaenyra, meaning it is time for Larys to take full control of the situation. Larys poses as a simple raven merchant, and the plan seems to work initially. However, the captain demands that they kneel and swear allegiance to the queen, something Aegon is completely unwilling to do. When the captain orders their execution, Larys completely changes his strategy. He reveals that his companion is Aegon the Usurper, purified by fire at the Battle of Rook's Rest, and demands they take him to the queen to collect their reward. As proof, Larys hands Aegon's crown to the captain, who orders them decapitated as a gift for the queen. This is where Larys demonstrates his great cleverness. He convinces him to deliver them alive to demand their weight in gold, arguing that a lifeless head is not worth nearly as much as the secrets kept inside it. So the captain takes them as prisoners until they reach the port of Duskendale, where they will sail to Dragonstone and appear before the queen. Meanwhile, on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra is thinking deeply about whether Alicent's offer was truly genuine. Handing over the capital and allowing her to take the throne, just to escape the situation safely with her daughter, seems a bit too good to be true. Although her council, including her son Jace, begs her not to fall for the trick or risk everything for an old friendship, a few seconds later, the council is willing to hear the terms of the deal. Rhaenyra explains that when Aemond flies with Vhagar to join the forces in the Riverlands, Alicent will open the gates of the capital so she can take the throne and separate Aegon's head from his body. Even though her son and the council make it clear that they do not agree with putting the entire fate of the war on the shoulders of a desperate mother, Rhaenyra decides to follow her gut and writes to Daemon to return immediately. However, in the capital, something very different from what we expected is happening. As soon as Alicent returns, the Hand of the King approaches her to say that her presence is urgently needed in the throne room. There she sees Aemond sitting on the throne, telling her that Aegon is as stupid as he is a coward. He has abdicated the throne in the middle of the night and escaped the city along with the cripple, Larys. Alicent tries to tell him that they must find him immediately, that it is extremely important, but Aemond has already taken care of it. The only question on his mind is where she was while all of this was happening. He knows perfectly well that she hasn't been in the keep for several days, and after thinking for a couple of seconds, she has no choice but to lie, telling him she was in the Kingswood sword because she realized she is of no use to her children lately. However, she now finds out that Aemond will not fly with Vhagar to Harrenhal, meaning her plan to open the gates while he was supposed to be gone is completely ruined, as is the pledge of trust she swore to Rhaenyra. On top of that, Aemond reveals that reinforcements are already on the way. Lord Ormond and 15,000 men loyal to House Hightower are coming down the river to help him defend the city. And that's not all. Daeron and his dragon are accompanying them as well. And as if that weren't enough, the Triarchy's fleet will soon break the blockade, leaving the city more defended than ever. This is the exact opposite of what Alicent had planned, as she had promised to hand over the capital on a silver platter in exchange for her safety and that of her daughters, a plan that couldn't possibly be any more ruined. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, we can see Daemon's soldiers slaughtering the Lannisters. Corpses continue to pile up, a clear sign that the battle is over and the army of the Lion has perished before the forces fighting for Rhaenyra. Amidst screams, fire, and blood, Daemon emerges victorious from this clash. We see him running through the last enemy soldier with his sword until the opposing forces are finally wiped from this world, at least for now. A few seconds later, young Oscar Tully, who has finally become a man by surviving his first battle, informs him that the enemy vanguard has been completely crushed, with only a few scattered soldiers fleeing the area. Daemon orders them to reorganize to hunt down every last enemy soldier, but Oscar asks for some time to bury his men, since, according to their traditions, Riverland's men must return to the mud. At that exact moment, a large contingent of men begins to emerge from the forest, a sign that the battle is not over yet. Daemon immediately calls upon Caraxes, his powerful dragon, to support him in the next stage of the conflict. Fortunately, the men coming out of the trees are not roaring or running in search of blood. They are the Winter Wolves, the men of the North, veterans led by Roderick Dustin, also known as Roddy the Ruin, who brings a gift for Daemon, the head of Jason Lannister himself, which he uses to prove their loyalty to Rhaenyra Targaryen. Daemon accepts the gift and informs them that they still have more lions to hunt, cementing the alliance and closing this epic scene with a smile. But while some men fight each other and shed blood, others commit depraved acts, something Gwaine is not willing to tolerate. He goes straight to Criston Cole to tell him that war is no excuse for his men to turn into beasts. Gwaine wonders why Aemond hasn't arrived with Vhagar. He was supposed to be there 2 days ago, so they could keep advancing toward Harrenhal to face Daemon. Instead, they are stranded in the middle of the woods, and he doesn't like what he has been seeing at all. Criston tells him to look around. They are very far from the city. Out here, men who are willing to give their lives deserve to have some relief. If he starts hanging every soldier who follows his impulses, he will have an entire army against him. Therefore, he recommends that he look up at the sky and enjoy the stars, rather than inside the soldiers' tents. Meanwhile, the dragon seeds are waiting where Rhaenyra told them to, in the middle of the forest, to ambush Aemond on his way to Harrenhal. However, since he has decided to stay in the capital, they are getting a bit bored and have begun to lose their patience. Not far from there, Rhaenyra has finally survived her first flight on Sheepstealer, but it is clear that the massive dragon is not willing to follow her commands. Instead, he leaves her stranded on top of a huge mountain and takes off, making it clear that he is not ready to be tamed. As for Alicent, she knows she must act fast. The moment she is in her quarters, she begins writing a letter to Ormond Hightower, her cousin, and the man marching toward the capital with 15,000 men, telling him that by order of the king, they must halt their advance, at least until she can think of something else. Aboard the Queen Who Never Was, Corlys sends for his son to inform him of the Queen's new orders. They must withdraw 5 ships from the blockade and head toward King's Landing immediately. Although Alan does not know much about the enemy they face, he knows that Aemond One-Eye is the kind of king who would rather burn everything down before giving up the throne, so it will surely be a massive battle. After staring at him for a few seconds, Corlys finally admits that he cannot completely mend the rift between them, but he wants to apologize for not being there during his upbringing. He loved his mother, but he had other responsibilities. For many years, he tried to forge a life for him and his brother. However, before Alan can reproach him for never even giving him his name, the bells ring, alerting them to an imminent battle. The Velaryon ships under Rhaenyra's command are about to clash with the Triarchy, commanded by Tyland Lannister. According to the initial count, 53 enemy ships can be seen, far outnumbering their own forces. Aboard the Triarchy's fleet, Tyland tries to explain the combat strategy to Admiral Sherrico, but she knows exactly what is going to happen. She has absolutely no interest in following Lannister orders. Her vengeance is against Corlys, and putting her dagger to the sea snake's neck is all she cares about. In fact, she sends part of the fleet to attack the northern side and sack high tide Corlys's castle to cause him severe damage, even if it means losing ships that Thailand needs to secure a victory with the fewest casualties possible. She knows how Corlys thinks. He will never maintain his focus when he sees his home burning in flames. Though they have different ways of fighting, both are focused on the same purpose, a victory. Only she wants to make her enemy suffer a bit more. Rhaenyra has already spent a couple of hours at the top of the mountain where the cold affects her fingers, and she doesn't know if she will survive much longer. Fortunately, Sheep Stealer returns and brings her a couple of sheep, which he cooks for her, finally accepting her as his rider, though he is still reluctant to follow her commands. In warmer terrain, Ormond receives Alicent's message, but it bears Aemond Targaryen's seal, leaving him no choice but to follow orders and wait there for further news. The trick worked, buying her a couple of days at least. After doing this, she goes to her son's quarters herself to act like a concerned mother and tell him that perhaps the throne is better off in his hands. However, he cannot leave Harrenhal undefended, and he must march there as soon as possible. Alicent knows her son is afraid of dying, and uses that feeling to tell him that Harrenhal is a fortress that has survived dragonfire before, making it much safer to be there than in King's Landing. She tells him that with his help, the Battle of Harrenhal is already decided. Furthermore, killing Daemon will be such a devastating blow to Rhaenyra that it will bring many men to his side. That is why he must march. After a few tense seconds, Aemond kisses his mother in a highly uncomfortable moment. He then promises he will throw a feast in her honor once he has his uncle's head on a spear. With that, Alicent achieves her goal, managing to get him out of the castle. Back with the dragon seeds, they are tired of waiting when something strange happens. Hugh and Adam see a bizarre creature on top of the mountain, a sort of giant satyr, which is their cue to get out of there immediately. A few seconds later, Alice the witch appears, telling them they are missing a massive battle and that the queen needs them. That, along with the vision of the satyr, is enough for them to pack up and return to Dragonstone. At the same time, Rhaenyra learns about the battle between the Triarchy and the Sea Snake. She prepares to put on her battle armor, believing she must be the one to help them, but Jace tells her it is an unnecessary risk. They have plenty of men and troops to send as support. She must not put herself in danger. When his mother refuses to listen, he decides to take drastic action. The boy threatens Ser Lorand, the Kingsguard knight, ordering him to lock the door and bar the queen from leaving for any reason. If they lose their leader in a secondary battle, he will never forgive himself. Baela, his fiancée, tries to reason with him, arguing that he cannot disobey his mother, much less confine her, but Jace tells her that they have the strength to win this battle for her, and that the best betrothal gift would be to prove he is ready. He convinces his love to join him at the Gullet to destroy the Triarchy's ships using their dragons. As the youths rush toward the fight, his mother pounds on the door with all her might, threatening to take Ser Lorent's head for doing this. However, the knight stands firm and does not let her out. Her screams blend with the cries of the men dying right now at the Gullet, where we can see ships crashing into one another and bodies piling up. Crossbows, swords, and fire are the only sounds tearing through the thick fog. Right after, Corlys orders his son to steer them directly into the thick of the fight. He wants Sharako to spot them and give chase, as it is a crucial part of the plan. However, she is busy slitting his men's throats, killing anyone who thinks they are strong enough to defeat her. Admiral Sharako has the strength to kill 3 men by herself in an instant, and seconds later, she catches sight of Corlys's ship pulling away, so she orders a pursuit, just as he had planned. Thailand tries to tell her that they are the flagship and that retreating to chase a single vessel will cause chaos. But since he is surrounded entirely by men loyal to Sharako, he cannot voice much opposition, or he will end up in the sea with his throat slit from ear to ear. Just when Corlys believes the battle is lost, Jace and his love appear on the backs of their dragons, beginning to incinerate the enemy ships with every single command. The dragonfire turns the enemy ships to ash and gives them a breather, but the battle is not over. Corlys orders his son to set a course for Dragonstone through the straits, though Alan warns him that with the tide so low, they could run aground. However, Corlys knows that Sharako only wants him, and it is certain that not all of her ships will be able to cross, allowing them to kill the enemy fleet leader in a much more even battle that will give them the upper hand. As for Jace, he has no trouble continuing to burn the enemy ships, but Sharako surprises him by firing firing a bolt directly at his dragon's neck. The iron gets caught in its collar, establishing a tight grip that threatens to bring it down. Immediately, Shirako orders the anchor to be released. A heavy stone drops into the water, dragging the massive dragon toward the depths, and though it does everything possible to stay airborne, the weight is too much to bear. Jace orders Vermax to rise, but they end up dragging the anchor for too long. Just as its wings are about to touch the water, Baela appears and uses her dragon's jaws to snap the rope. Back with Corlys, he has finally reached the straits, and they have begun to cross, risking the chance of hitting the rocks, sinking, and sealing their doom. Shirako approaches from behind with 2 more ships, and she has no plan of stopping. This is the vengeance she has been waiting for over 20 years, and a few rocks will not make her back down. Thailand warns her that they do not know these waters and that a single mistake could condemn her men, but she orders them to stay right in Corlys's wake, which is incredibly difficult to do with such a narrow margin of error. Fortunately for Corlys, his experience with these waters and the fact that he takes control of the helm is exactly what they need, managing to get them across safe and sound. In the end, the ship escapes with only minor scratches. The old mariner has done it once again, saving his men's lives. However, now it is his turn to witness something completely unexpected. But right before that, we see that Shirako has taken drastic measures. After watching her 2 vessels begin to sink due to the rocks, she orders her men to throw all dead weight overboard to raise the hull as much as possible. That includes the Lannister soldiers, starting with Thailand himself. He ends up falling into the water and slamming into a rock that surely snaps his spine in 2, meaning his time in this war is officially over. These drastic measures allow Shirako to cross safe and sound to the other side of the straits, ready to close the distance. This proves to be quite easy, as her ship is much faster than Corlys's, and a battle will soon take place where one of them will finally die. But this is where the most devastating event occurs. Once they manage to clear the rocks, Corlys looks up toward his home and sees it completely engulfed in flames. Alan tries to bring his father to his senses, but Corlys cannot look away from the horizon, completely stunned as he watches his home turn into ruins. So, the young man takes the helm and orders the men to brace for impact. Seconds later, Shirako's ship manages to ram them at High Samid, tearing the vessel nearly in half. At that moment, she gives the order, and her men begin to board, slaughtering Corlys's soldiers with extreme cruelty. She follows them with only one goal in mind: to kill the old mariner and avenge her brothers, who were killed by the sea snake. Back in the battle we left behind, Rhaenyra tries to help her people, but Sheepstealer has never been in a war, and his defiance is costing many lives, as the dragon's fire burns both friendly and enemy ships alike. The massive dragon attacks allies, and she cannot make him obey. At that moment, we return to Corlys, who wakes up dazed after the impact, and cannot stop hearing the screams of his men. He recovers, and begins to slaughter Shirako's soldiers. Meanwhile, Alan is fighting in the cargo hold as the water rises, needing to strip off his armor as quickly as possible before he drowns. Baela tries to stop Sheepstealer, but this dragon is much larger, and Rhaenyra cannot control him. So instead of fighting him, she decides to distract him and lead him away from the ships, so he stops killing allied soldiers. Unfortunately, in his eagerness to help Baela, Jace ends up overexposing himself, and Vermax takes a direct hit to the chest that proves fatal, as the heavy chain continues to drag him down and widens his wound. A few seconds later, Vermax can take no more and crashes into the water. The anchor has done its job, tearing his chest open to the point where he sinks, leaving Jace stranded in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by enemy ships. As soon as the soldiers notice his presence, the arrows fly, first into his back, then into his chest, until the young man finally dies. Back with Corlys, his duel finally begins, and Shirako attacks him with everything she has. The Admiral's agility clashes with the heavy strategy of the veteran mariner. In the end, the old man emerges victorious, but just as he is about to deliver the final blow, the ship slams into the rocks, throwing him out into the water. With his heavy armor on, breaking the surface is nearly impossible. At that exact moment, Alan decides to finish the job. He lunges at Shirako, grabs her by the neck, and begins to choke her with all his might, until he finally manages to seize a dagger and slit her throat. In the end, all that remains is death and saltwater. Both the men of the Triarchy and those of the sea snake will become food for the sharks, and only those who survive will have the chance to fight another day.